Super God Gene. Chapter 86. Sen, check out my new mount. Su Xiaoqiao was riding his newly gained mutant red-hoofed beast in the yard of the Bullseye team, bragging. The mutant red-hoofed beast looked somewhat like an antelope with a pair of buffalo horns on its head. It had the size of a camel and was satin black all over, except for its 4 blood red hooves. Han Sen was very depressed to see this gorgeous mount. He wasted so much effort in helping this brat win a mutant mount, while he himself ended up with nothing. Although he did have a mutant mount beast soul, it was aquatic and was useless on the land. After the martial arts contest, I have to find a way to gain a beast soul mount. It was too much trouble going everywhere on foot and it was bad for my image as well, Han Sen thought to himself. Dark Swamp was out of the question. Even if he gained a mount beast soul there, it would be something ugly like a toad. Han Sen, come to my office. Young Manly called from on the 2nd floor. Sen, you offended her again. Su Xiaoqiao ran over and asked, grinning. Why would I do that? Han Sen said, touching his nose. That was not a kind look she had. You have to be careful, Su Xiaoqiao laughed. You know about looks. Why don't you say you are psychic as well? Han Sen laughed and went to the 2nd floor. Manly, you asked for me. Han Sen asked. I do not know what Qin Zan saw in you. But since she asked me to help you prepare for the entrance exam, I'll do my best. Starting from today, you will report to me at the teleport station every day and I will train you, hard. You better be prepared as you will suffer. Blackhawk isn't just any school. Young Manly paused and said casually, if you cannot bear it, you better ask Qin Zan to allow you to quit. I will not stop you. When do I start? Han Sen asked. Now, said Young Manly before she got up and teleported to planet Roka with Han Sen. Young Manly took Han Sen to the test hall at the teleport station, which was a military standard test hall that provided more accurate tests. You will do a detailed test first and let me see what's the difference between your fitness level and the lowest standard for Blackhawk, Young Manly said with no expression. No need for that, I think I could definitely pass that bar. Han Sen did not dare to do the test, afraid he might scare Young with his data. The last time he took the test, he had approached 10 in all his numbers. Having gained lots of mutant and sacred geno points after that, his fitness index should be well beyond 10 now. Do the test, Young Manly commanded coldly. If you insist, Han Sen muttered and slowly walked toward the entrance of the test hall. Han Sen had made up his mind not to use his full strength, in case Young could tell something was wrong. Fortunately, Han Sen was very confident in his control of his own body. The more he practiced Jideskin, the more he was amazed by this hyper-geno art. He hadn't practiced it for long, but he already felt that he could adjust each bone and each muscle in his body. With Jideskin, he could even change his heart rate, blood pressure and body temperature to a certain extent. The more he understood Jideskin, the more scared he felt. Fortunately, Shui Longyan had already been seriously injured when they met, or else it would have been Han Sen who got killed. It was precisely because of this that Han Sen wouldn't let anyone know that he was practicing Jideskin, for fear that people might know Shui Longyan was killed by him. The test items here were similar to those in the test center, but were more sophisticated in general. Hence Han Sen knew what each item was for. Soon, Han Sen completed all the test items and came out of the test hall covered with sweat. Young Manly had no idea that Han Sen looked so tired mainly because he was trying to control the test result. To control one's reflexes and heartbeat was extremely difficult in such sophisticated test items. If Han Sen hadn't practiced Jideskin, he wouldn't have been able to hide his real physical condition at all. Young Manly looked through Han Sen's test results and said, less than 10 in all items, but close. 10 is just the standard of ordinary military schools. For Blackhawk, even for specially recruited students, 10 was just a narrow pass. After reading something on a smart machine, she said, during the time we have left, which is little more than a month, I will make all your fitness index past 10. Meanwhile, I will train you in archery. Only with proper archery skills will you be specially recruited. Manly, may I ask, without special enrollment, what kind of score is Blackhawk looking for? Han Sen asked curiously. When you are able to beat me, you could be admitted to Blackhawk on your own. Young Manly went to the gym, not even glancing at Han Sen. Han Sen followed her to the gym and looked at all sorts of training equipment in the gym curiously. Many of the equipment he had never seen before. Many soldiers were training in the gym. The teleport station was part of the military, so everything here followed military standard. The only difference was that most soldiers here were new to the army and had never been to the battlefield. Those who could be assigned here typically had certain connections, or else they would have been sent to the front. Super God Gene. Chapter 87. Young Manly led Han Sen in front of a sealed device the size of a train compartment. The device was around 150 feet long. She turned it on and entered some data before she took off her jacket, revealing a black professional training suit underneath. The suit was made of a material unknown to Han Sen, which had a form-fitting effect. Han Sen noticed that Young Manly had a great body. Her legs were especially long and straight, seducing one to touch them. Look carefully. I will only show you once. For today, you need to finish this training every day before you go anywhere else. Young Manly said and went into the device. The moment Young Manly entered the device, all soldiers who were exercising came around and drooled over the holographic image displayed. Yang's body is getting more and more perfect. I could play with those legs for 3 years. 3 years. I can play with them for 30 years. Check out her ass. These animals stared at the holographic image almost with their eyeballs popped out. Inside the device, Young Manly had started. There are many exercise items in the device and she finished them one by one effortlessly. The items didn't look very difficult either. Brother, what is this device? Looks like it is not that difficult. Han Sen asked a soldier curiously. Not difficult, kiddo, you are too naive. Yang seems effortless because she's got great fitness index. If you were to do it, you would be too tired to finish 3 items. This is called Gravity Trainer. There are such devices on all interstellar aircrafts and warships and they are used to adjust the internal gravity. With the parameters set by Yang, one would need at least 10 in fitness index to train. Or else walking in the device alone would be a torture, even worse than screwing 7 times in one night. Son, all you could do is pray. These soldiers knew Han Sen. They were all aware that Qin Zan had often called him into the combat room. Young Manly stepped out of the gravity trainer in a little while, and the soldiers quickly scattered back to do their training as if nothing had happened. Young Manly had some sweat on her forehead. She put on her jacket and said, "Now you complete the exercise and then come to find me." She left with no intention of watching Han Sen do the exercise. Young Manly knew very well that Han Sen's physical fitness index was only close to 10 and it was impossible for him to finish such intense training. She just wanted to humble him so that he would follow her orders better. A soldier ran toward Han Sen when the latter was about to enter the gravity trainer to start training. Putting his hand over Han Sen's shoulder, the soldier smiled and said, "Buddy, if you can bring us some R-rated holographic resources when you come here in the future, I'll let you in on a secret and make the gravity trainer a piece of cake for you." Deal. What's the secret? Han Sen agreed, knowing he was asking for porns. Great. The soldier patted Han Sen's shoulder and whispered to his ear, "Once the parameters were set up, Yang could tell if you have modified them after. However, the device has a protective mechanism, which is designed mainly to prevent dangers to your body. My method allows you to change the parameters through this mechanism so that the result doesn't show the modification. So, you can easily complete the test without being found out by Yang." Fantastic. What should I do? Han Sen asked. I can tell you the secret, but a deal is a deal. You need to get me those R-rated holographic resources or you will regret it, said the soldier. Brother, rest assured, I'll get you those, Han Sen patted his own chest and guaranteed. The soldier nodded with satisfaction and told Han Sen the method to change the parameters. He repeatedly told Han Sen to bring him the porns and designated a few actresses. Parameters set up, please confirm. Han Sen went into the gravity trainer and heard the AI. Okay, Han Sen replied. Confirmation completed. Start testing in 10 seconds. Countdown starts. 10, 9, 8. When the countdown was over, Han Sen felt his body sank, as if he had suddenly gained a few hundred pounds. Han Sen did not use the soldier's method. He wanted to see if he could finish the exercise like Young Manly did. Han Sen was not used to the added gravity and warmed up a little before he started. When Young Manly was back from her office, it was already in the afternoon. She thought Han Sen should be worn out like a dead dog by now and would probably be more obedient in the future. When Young Manly returned to the gym, she was surprised to see Han Sen chatting with the soldiers there. The soldiers were even showing him how to play with all sorts of devices. He looked rather lively and not tired at all. Han Sen, I asked you to train. What are you doing? Annoyed, Young Manly asked coldly. The soldiers were scared away like mice met a cat, leaving Han Sen standing there alone in front of Young Manly. Captain, I've completed the training. Han Sen saluted the way the soldiers had just taught him. Completed. Young Manly frowned and walked quickly toward the gravity trainer. She pulled out the data and as she checked each item, her face became darker and darker. There was no doubt that young Manly did not think the data was real. Only those who with more than 12 in fitness index could achieve this. She had just tested Han Sen's fitness and he wasn't even a 10. So, this could not be his real performance. Super God Gene, Chapter 88, Who told you about the protection mechanism? Young Manly stared at Han Sen madly. Of course, she knew about this trick. What protection mechanism? I do not understand what you are talking about. Han Sen looked innocent. You won't tell. Go get a 7.0 practice bow and some arrows. Young Manly calmed down and said coldly. Han Sen did not know what she wanted to do, and did what she asked. You know the standard stance to draw the string. Young Manly looked at Han Sen and asked. Yes. Han Sen nodded. Very good. Pull the string to the fullest on standard stance, Young Manly said quietly. Han Sen had worked hard on archery so his stance was perfect and he easily pulled the string to the fullest. Good stance. Han Sen was surprised to hear Young Manly's compliment. Thank you, Captain. Still, Han Sen knew he was in trouble. Hold this position until midnight. If you move during this period and I do not get the answer I want, you do not need to show up here again. Even if the station master came here herself, one of us must go. Young Manly turned to leave. Seeing Yang going away, the soldiers ran back and the one who told Han Sen about the protection mechanism felt guilty and said, Sorry buddy, I did not expect Yang to be onto you. I did you harm instead of good. It's just a few hours. I'll be fine, Han Sen said casually. Do not underestimate the standard stance. 20 minutes was all right, but 2 hours is just torture. A 7.0 bow is not a joke, usually we can't even last 2 hours with a 6.0 bow. It's 4 hours until midnight. Yang is really brutal this time. I say let's go apologize. Just tell her we all told him about the loophole. Or else he would probably not be able to use his arms ever again. If we have to, judging from her look, we would suffer as well. The soldiers complained and sighed. No need, I'll give it a shot. My endurance has always been good. 4 hours, I think there should be no problem. Han Sen called the soldiers who were going to apologize back. It doesn't matter how good your endurance is. It's torture. Han Sen smiled, I've seen worse. Don't go yet. If I can't do it, you could go then. Maybe by then Young Manly will see how miserable I am and lessen the punishment. That is also true. Buddy, you hang in there first. Let us know when it gets bad. We will go and confess. The soldiers were loyal. Han Sen nodded and did not speak. Remaining motionless was sometimes even worse than violent movement, especially when he was also drawing a 7.0 bow. In the beginning he didn't feel much, but after half an hour, his arm muscles began to feel numb, and with the passage of time, this numb feeling was more and more intense. In just an hour, Han Sen was sweating like rain, his arms burning and whole body trembling. Han Sen gritted his teeth and started to practice Jideskin. A spring-like coolness flowed through all his veins, where the numb feeling was gradually relieved. Through the monitor, Young Manly would glance at Han Sen from time to time. She saw him keeping the stance but started to tremble when it was approaching an hour. His endurance was already beyond her expectation. Even the soldiers can only last this long. Young Manly predicted he could last about at most 1.5 hours, certainly less than 2 hours. Cheating in your first training session. I have to put you through hell. Young Manly did not really want a name from Han Sen. His silence was a quality she could appreciate, and if he had confessed about the person who had told him, she would have looked down on him. After working for a while, Young Manly checked on him again when it was an hour and a half, and found he was still standing there. Young Manly could not help but frown, as Han Sen looked better now than half an hour ago. He had stopped trembling and was sweating less. In general, he looked more relaxed. He moved. Young Manly was not sure and played the footage backward, noticing Han Sen had not moved in the last 30 minutes. Odd. Young Manly did not go back to work, but paid full attention to Han Sen's image. Han Sen had been standing for 2 hours. Buddy, you're awesome. Can you keep going? Your endurance is out of this world. If you are this good in every aspect, you could definitely go to the Alliance Central Military Academy. Brother, you a real man. A soldier gave him a thumbs up. Let us know if you can't keep going. Don't risk hurting your own body. It's not worth it. Keeping his body motionless, Han Sen smiled and said, I feel okay. I can definitely hold until midnight. No need to check on me. Brother, if you can really hold until midnight, you will be under my protection in the future. Your protection? Do you dare to fight Yang or Chin Zan? Ahem, I was just saying. Do not be so serious. The soldiers took a shower and went to the cafeteria, leaving Han Sen alone in the gym. He was practicing Jideskin secretly and felt its power welling from every body cell, eliminating his fatigue. When Han Sen had insisted for 3 hours, even Yang Manli was shocked. She even doubted if the soldiers had hacked the monitor and all she saw was a loop. Soon she ruled out that possibility and left the office for the gym. Super God Gene, Chapter 89. Now, do you have something to say to me? Yang Manli approached Han Sen, who was standing like a statue. Han Sen hadn't reached a certain level in Jideskin, so his fatigue wasn't cleared away completely. Having stood there for over 3 hours, he was drenched in sweat. Even so, his stance was still firm as ever and his hands holding the bow didn't even tremble. Yang Manli for the first time felt that maybe Han Sen was somewhat talented. He had been standing like that for more than 3 hours and his hands were still steady, which was a great quality for an archer. Captain, I really have nothing to say, Han Sen said. Well, since you are so tough, you could keep standing here. Yang Manli went away without looking back. She was a little angry, but also respected Han Sen for what he did. That was a difficult task for a 16-year-old. She herself could only last 2 hours with a 6.0 bow at his age. After Yang Manli had closely observed Han Sen's situation and made sure he was fine, she was surprised to see that he did have the energy to continue. Although this was a test of endurance, and didn't have much to do with his other qualities. It still showed that Han Sen was outstanding in something, as someone with a fitness index less than 10 wasn't likely to last this long. How can he have such strong endurance? Yang Manli thought she probably couldn't even accomplish this herself, while Han Sen, someone with much worse fitness than she, could pull through. After Yang Manli went back to the office, she continued to monitor Han Sen. On one hand, she wanted to find out how long Han Sen could last in the end, on the other hand, she was afraid his arms would be damaged. She did not want Han Sen on her team, but she did not mean to harm him either. That was why she couldn't let anything happen to him. Not to mention she had started to appreciate his endurance and perseverance. As for Han Sen's answer, in fact, Yang Manli did not really want to hear it. If Han Sen had really confessed, Yang Manli would have thought he was a snitch. Before long, the soldiers took some water and food and sneaked back into the gym. Brother, great job. Come and drink some nutrition solution to get some strength. A soldier opened a bottle of nutrient solution and lifted it to Han Sen's lips. Eat something. Although this meat is as good as the meat from God's sanctuary, it was cooked by a chef here and the taste is good. Another soldier held a large piece of barbecue on a fork and put it up to Han Sen's mouth. It's fine. I only have 1 hour left and must satisfy Yang's demand. I am afraid she would say it doesn't count if you help me, Han Sen said. Brother, you are really a tough guy. I don't admire anyone but you. Right, what is your name? Han Senator. You are just over 16, right? Haven't had my 17th birthday. Are all kids so tough these days? I do not know about others, but I'm definitely the toughest. Do not talk to him anymore. It consumes his energy. The soldiers saw Han Sen was fine and set up a table next to him to play cards. Han Sen was upset and thought, you animals. Are you trying to help or piss me off? Han Sen had been standing there for more than 4 hours. The soldiers watched the clock turning to 1 second past midnight, put the cards down, took the bow over and raised Han Sen up, ready to throw him into the hydro massage machine. Don't. I do not need the massage. It's too late now. I have to go home. Han Sen quickly waved his hands. He had seen this kind of machine before, and it would take at least an hour before he could get out. He did not want to waste his time here. That is not okay. You have been stretching your muscles for too long, which could severely harm your body. You must fully relax through the massage so that your veins and muscles could be revitalized. You have to stay in it for at least 3 hours with the strongest mode on, said a soldier seriously. I'm all right. Han Sen couldn't really wait 3 hours. As the soldiers insisted, he used a technique from Ghost Hound and grabbed a soldier's neck. With a twist, he wiggled free like a snake. Brothers, I'm really okay. I have to go home now. If you don't believe me, I will show you that I still have the energy to perform military boxing, Han Sen said and performed the complete set of military boxing. Military boxing was something taught at the integrated compulsory education, and was something as simple as gymnastics. But all the soldiers were dumbfounded by it. They watched Han Sen as if they had seen a ghost. *#T. Kid, you must be a monster under the human skin, the soldiers suddenly shouted when Han Sen finished the military boxing. Ashira under the human skin. A perpetual motion machine under the human skin. When Han Sen left the teleport station, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. His mother and sister weren't home, so he cooked himself something to fill his stomach and went to bed. Although Han Sen's body was fine, he did feel rather tired and almost fell asleep immediately. He didn't get up until it was noon. Han Sen stretched and felt very good all over. It was as if all his cells and pores were revitalized. He discovered that he had made great progress in Jideskin. Although it was still just a little, it was about the effect of 10 days practice. So Jideskin is practiced more efficiently under extreme conditions. Han Sen was surprised. It was worth a shot anyway. If it was true, it would be great for his practice of Jideskin. Han Sen was not in a hurry. He had lots of time to train in the gravity trainer in the future. If he didn't do it, Young Manly would make him anyway. Han Sen had carefully thought about his current situation. It would still be a while until he could become an aristocrat, and it was not a bad thing to join Qinzhan's squad to gain protection for his family. As Qinzhan had said, if Son of Heaven wanted to harm his family, there wasn't really much he could do even if he was home. The military's protection was more reliable. Son of Heaven was careful with Qinzhan in God's sanctuary, so Han Sen believed that Qinzhan's background would deter Son of Heaven. As long as Son of Heaven didn't know he was Dollar, Han Sen didn't think the guy would risk offending the military force for some small conflict. Super God Gene, Chapter 90. On the next day, Han Sen brought porns to the soldier who had asked him for them. The soldier was so happy that he wanted to become sworn brothers with Han Sen and said Han Sen would be responsible for his happiness from now on. Han Sen was covered in sweat. Fortunately, Young Manly came fast enough so that Han Sen got rid of the soldier successfully. Young Manly spent half an hour to explain some archery knowledge and gave Han Sen a few tasks to finish on his own. Han Sen had learned basic archery knowledge at school, and what Yang taught him was more practical, which benefited him a lot. Yang was indeed an expert. There were a lot of tasks for him to complete, which included the gravity trainer. Han Sen wanted to use the gravity trainer himself. This time he used the protection mechanism to adjust the parameters, not to reduce the gravity, but to increase the gravity a notch so that it suited his real fitness level better. The gym did not seem to be the place where ordinary soldiers trained. Han Sen had never seen other soldiers here than the ones he talked to. During lunch break, Han Sen was chatting with the soldiers he knew. The soldier who asked Han Sen for porns regarded Han Sen and asked, "Sen, in addition to bow and arrows, what other weapons do you use?" "Dagger." Han Sen showed him the Z-steel dagger. Han Sen only knew the nicknames of these soldiers. This guy's name was Gambler. Han Sen learned from others that he was greedy and lewd. Gambler took over Han Sen's dagger and played with it. The dagger seemed like a living thing in his hand, making dazzling moves like a snake. "Watch this." Gambler held the dagger an inch away from Han Sen's eyes. With a simple wave of his hand, the dagger disappeared in front of Han Sen and Gambler's hand was empty. ***T. Your nickname should be Magician." Han Sen looked everywhere and didn't see the dagger. Gambler laughed and shook his hands in front of Han Sen. He curled his fingers and the dagger returned to his hands magically. "How did you do that?" Han Sen widened his eyes. "Pretty cool, huh?" Gambler asked proudly. "Yep." Han Sen quickly nodded. "Dazzling, no." Gambler played with the dagger. "For sure." Han Sen nodded again. "Want to learn?" Gambler looked at Han Sen with a faint smile. "I do. Do you want to teach me?" Han Sen asked. "If you can bring me all my girls' new movies, I will teach you." Gambler said with a smile. "No problem." Han Sen agreed, knowing the girls Gambler referred to were certain porn stars. Although it cost some money to buy new movies, Han Sen really wanted to learn these tricks. "Come, we will find a place so that I can show you." Gambler took Han Sen aside and told him the key to it. Han Sen then found out that it was not really magic but finger tricks. Although it was taking advantage of the blind spots, the most important part was one's control of the muscles on the arm. Yes, it was the entire arm instead of just the hand. Gambler told him that this trick was called Heaven in Sleeves, also known as sleeve blade. It was passed down in his family as the foundation of their family business. The dirk Gambler used was specially made. Thin and sharp, it had a crescent-like double-edged blade but no hilt. Gambler was playing with one dirk in each hand, and it looked like there were two butterflies dancing around his hands, which was amazing to watch. "How long will it take for me to become a master like you?" Han Sen looked at Gambler enviously. Gambler smiled. "I started at the age of 3, and became better at 7. I'm now intermediate and still far from being a master." He gave the dagger back to Han Sen and said, "Do not underestimate this trick. Although it is just lays the foundation, but it is fundamental and will benefit you for the rest of your life." Gambler, what does your family do? Han Sen could not help but ask. Aha, you will never be in our business and I do not intend to let you. I'm just showing you a trick. You could practice it if you think it is fun. Never mind other issues. Gambler walked away and turned back to ask Han Sen, have you ever played games on the Skynet? Rarely. Han Sen had spent all his time trying to survive, and had no time for games. Go play, Hand of God. It will help you learn this trick. If you can level up in that game, you will be getting somewhere with this trick. Gambler pointed to the holographic training machine. Han Sen was very interested in Sleeveblade, so he went to check out Hand of God on the holographic training machine. Soon he understood why Gambler asked him to play this game. This was a holographic game. Its idea was like whack-a-mole, but instead of using fingers alone, the spots to touch could appear everywhere around one's arms. One must use all muscles rationally to hit all the spots to pass a level. It was highly demanding for one's dexterity and accuracy. In addition to the beginner level, the game was divided into 3 levels: Evolver, Surpass and Demigod. The intention of the classification was obviously to correspond with the 3 phases of God's sanctuary, and to guide players to choose the right level. Han Sen first chose the beginner level. Actually, when Gambler said, level up, he meant to clear the beginner level. As for which level Gambler himself was in, Han Sen had no way of knowing. Soon, Han Sen was hooked. He was not that smooth in the beginning, but was soon addicted to the satisfaction gained from hitting rapidly as he got familiar with the game. Faster, faster, faster. Once started, the game would push one to pursue the exhilaration in speeding up. But Han Sen did not have much time to play this game. After a few rounds in the martial arts contest, Han Sen reached the final match as expected. Not sure it was good luck or bad luck, Han Sen didn't encounter either Fist Guy or Son of Heaven. Son of Heaven had eliminated Fist Guy, and Chin Zan had eliminated Son of Heaven. The final match was between Chin Zan and Han Sen. In fact, Han Sen wanted to fight Son of Heaven more, so that he would have the opportunity to kill Son of Heaven on the stage. Usually the young master was surrounded by many strong men and there was almost no chance for Han Sen to approach him.